Let me
You're
grab some
finding
keys.
something that's really expensive.
Yeah, it is something so basic.
I just had a heart attack. It's $2,000.
That is definitely a lot for a tiny little gun. I figured the one thing that you were going to point out was this one thing from the 90s that's in this case.
Because I totally had one.
He decided that the store was going to be his collection, and we made sure specifically to get this case nice and full for when you guys came down.
We are in Marietta, Georgia at Second Chance Toys. We are going to go inside and we are going to talk to the owners. We're going to learn all about their vintage toys and see what they got going on. All right, who are you? Where are we?
We are in Marietta, Georgia, 3372 Canton Road. We're just south of Cherokee County. My name is Chance Sadler. I am the co-owner of Second Chance Toys. My dad and I started this about 4 years ago. He moved up from Jacksonville, Florida when I got my master's, and he asked what I wanted to do. I said I wanted to do this. He's been doing this since I was born, so 28 years, and this is what I love. So,
What did you get your master's in?
I got my master's in business. I have an MBA.
Okay.
Probably the most high profile portion of the store is that room right there, just because it has most of the like centric 80s and 90s toys in it. So like your He-Man, from Turtles to He-Man, and everything in between is in there. Marvel DC is in this room. Star Wars is in this room. Transformers is in this room. So if you want to start back there and walk our way around this way, the Star Wars would probably be the best place to start. Unless you would like to highlight a little bit of like the girls stuff.
Is this it? Is this the girls? Show us around.
Okay, cool. So right here we have our girls section. Obviously that is completely up for debate. That is subjective. More feminine product over here. However, we have a lot of guys come in and buy ponies. I will say the amount of bronies that come in here, tremendous. Kudos to them. It's awesome. I think ponies are great. My favorite area of this section is definitely the gym and the holograms.
You know what, actually, speaking of, okay, there was something I was looking for at the last time. I thought it was the Thundercats, but it's actually way off. It was this. Someone had told me that I reminded them of this purple lady because of her purple hair.
The purple lady?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Cool.
That was kind of my knowledge of it. So
I like
please
that.
Tell me more.
So Jim and the Holograms was produced in the 80s, and it focused around Jim and her band. And there's an evil band led by Pizzazz, and they try and take over the music scene. The music in that show is debatably the best of the 80s, which is crazy to say because, you know, artists like Shooky Levy created so many fantastic intros and so much great music for those shows. But Jim and the Holograms, they're, you know, the best way to put it would be they're truly outrageous.
All right. What else we got?
This is one of the largest sections in the store. So a little bit of information about our Star Wars section is that when my dad and I decided to open Second Chance Toys 4 years ago, we both thought about where we wanted the stuff to be in the store. The largest sections in the store were going to be our favorite sections. My first love was Star Wars, so that is what I wanted to be the largest section in the store. His first love was Diecast, Redline Hot Wheels mainly, 60s Matchbox, so he wanted Diecast to be the largest section of the store. So we compromised, and both of those areas are quite large considerably when you compare it to everything else.
Okay, wait. Let me stop you. What is diecast? Just so I'm like...
Diecast, like cars,
guys.
metal cars.
Oh!
Metal car, like Hot Wheels 64th scale.
Gotcha. Hot Wheels, I know.
Yeah, okay, so Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Jada, Corgi, Dinky, those are older brands. Tamika.
Wow.
I might be losing you, but it's okay. I'm not a huge diecast guy.
It's okay.
I'm not a huge diecast guy.
What is your most expensive and best piece in the Star Wars collection?
That is a good question. Obviously, you have multiple different eras of collecting. A lot of people tend to focus on vintage Star Wars, which would be everything from 77, 78 technically, all the way to 86 when the Droids and Ewoks line got discontinued on the shelf. I personally prefer modern 3 3/4 stuff. The articulation and detail that they've put into those figures, especially the vintage collection line, has completely blown Star Wars out of the water, and it's just gotten so large, and they focus on so much obscurity, which I really like. The HasLab Jabba's skiff up there is probably our most expensive piece out of our entire Star Wars area.
What
It
does
is
that cost?
complete. It has a box. It has the shipper. It is $1,500.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty large piece. It's something that a lot of people really enjoy. Something that a lot of people crave to have in their collection. It takes up a lot of space though, so you're going to have to clear a table for that thing.
Yeah, that's big.
The most rare. That's interesting because you can see pretty much one of those at every toy show. I would say the most rare, just because of completeness, might be this Stormtrooper Luke right here, and or the Death Star Gunner. Those are two of the last 17 pieces that were released in 1985. They are incredibly cool. A lot of people don't have those in their collection. They are fairly expensive. That Stormtrooper Luke is the best one that I've seen personally with my own two eyes. Been alive for 28 years. It is the cleanest one that I have ever seen. Hopefully it finds a new home eventually, but it does take a special person to come in here and purchase something of that magnitude. So
What's that price tag look like? Ooh, $400.
it is $400, yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, pretty expensive. There's some weapons in here that are $150 by themselves.
Show me.
Okay. Taiwan Boba Fett's specific factory. Now this, I do not believe, is the one, but a Taiwan Boba Fett, which I label on all of our Boba Fetts. If it says Taiwan, that's the one that everybody wants. It comes with better detail and paint applications. And you can check that on the back. It's called a COO, or Country of Origin. These Boba Fetts sometimes came with a V5 Imperial Blaster. This one specifically is not a V5. However, you can tell there's a great website called the Imperial Gunnery. John Paul Ragusa, I believe, who owns a store up in New York, created that website for fellow collectors and fellow shops to kind of get information on the different variants of weapons. And the V5 of this, which you can go find on that website, look at the specific details of it. That's about a $150 gun. Yeah, pretty wild. And it only released on certain Boba Fetts, which would be the Taiwans. That is definitely a lot for a tiny little gun.
I did get distracted because this is your work area, and this is what he's doing. He's not even working.
If you come into Second Chance Toys and there is not something playing in the background, i.e. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, or anything of the nerd genre, there's something wrong.
He's sad. He's sick. He's
I cannot sit in silence. It is impossible. I can't do it. I despise it, even. And I can't even work in silence. It's just too awkward. I can't stand going into a store and not hearing a thing. That makes me feel so unwelcome. So I try to have something on in the background at all times for people to enjoy.
Is this over here? Is that Guy Fieri? Fieri? That's a wrestler.
Oh, yes.
I mean, like, I knew that this is a wrestling collection, but, like, I think he stole his style.
Wrestling sells incredibly well for us. Most of what we have out is going to be elites and or AEW, Unrivaled, Unmatched, which are the elites of that specific promotion. I would be willing to say that we probably have about 25, 30 wrestlers come off the shelf every 5 days.
Wow.
It's insane.
That's crazy.
It is absolutely wild. A lot of wrestlers come in here, actually. We've had quite a few come in here. Matt Cardona, Heath Slater, Kurt Hawkins. And then from wrestling, we come over here to Transformers. Transformers is what got us off the ground at the store. When my dad moved up here, obviously it's a completely different market than what he typically had down in Jacksonville, Florida. He was not aware that Transformers up here was going to be so popular, but it takes up a huge space in the toy community. So when we started filling up cases, we had 1 case of Transformers, and we realized at the end of the first month that Transformers were completely diminished and most of the other properties kind of stayed. And I went, maybe it's time for a second Transformers case. And I did the second Transformers case, and same thing happened, and it diminished, and then poof, we realized that Transformers were a big seller. So,
wow. Was it back in time where they were like super into Transformers? Yeah, the whole back wall was just Transformers.
it's a big seller. It's a big seller, and modern Transformers do way better than the vintage stuff here. It's odd. Usually that doesn't happen in pretty much any toy line.
But is that like younger people coming in for them?
No, you'd be surprised. There's dudes in their 50s and 60s that won't even touch a G1 Transformer. That's what they played with growing up. But over time, you know, with the detail and articulation, just blows the vintage stuff out of the water.
All right, so at Retro Toy Con, our friend Danny was looking for Generation 2 Onslaught. Do you have that?
Unfortunately, we do not. I know. Big thumbs down. Big thumbs down. Second Chance Toys is not coming in strong right now.
I tried,
However,
Danny.
G2 stuff is not super common to run across. It is not super common. That's actually harder to collect than G1 is. G1, there's just such a plethora out there. G2 stuff, because it didn't hit the market in mass numbers like G1 stuff did, it's not as common. It's not as frequent. Finding them complete is really difficult. The European exclusive stuff is really difficult. So yeah, unfortunately we don't have a G2 Onslaught. G2 comes in here less than anything else. I understand that for most people out there, Beast Wars is not their favorite Transformer stuff.
He doesn't want to get booed is what's happening.
It happens to be my favorite Transformer stuff. I am not a Transformer guy, but I shouldn't say, I was going to say I value animals more than anything else, but I prefer animals and anthropomorphic stuff to machines. So anything that transforms from a rhino, an elephant, a cheetah, you know, stuff like that is really near and dear to me because I enjoy it personally. I think that our sealed Magnaboss is incredibly cool. Now, a lot of people would look at that and go, that's disgusting. However, I see it and I go, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. And that for me, you know, Beast Wars stuff is the cream of the crop. To get it sealed is pretty difficult. Out of the G1 stuff, I would say our two, not the most expensive pieces, but two of the most difficult pieces that we have are Takara, Diacron, DK2, and DK3. We did have DK1. That was purchased by a couple of pretty faithful customers of ours, huge Transformer fans. But DK2 and DK3 right there are incredibly cool. Those are precursors to Transformers. Those came out about a couple years before the actual models did. Ratchet and Ironhide, obviously, and then I believe Hoist would be the official G1. Our diecast section. This case right here would be my dad's favorite in the entire store. David Sadler is my dad's name, and that name is pretty synonymous with diecast throughout the Southeast. There's people that know my dad going back 30 years now, and whenever people are looking for Redlines, they call him. Redline's definitely his favorite case in the entire store. He takes pride in having a nicely organized and displayed case, and it's very cool. It draws a lot of attention. The Spectraflame paint is something that they don't do anymore, and people love them.
This one down here is $175.
Let me
You're
grab some
finding
keys.
something that's really expensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot to see.
So this car right here, if you were to take a stab, if you didn't already see the price tag,
I did not see the
what
price
would
tag.
you think that car would sell for?
Well, there was one right beside it that was like $250. So I'm gonna say, if we're thinking this is like insanely priced, I'm gonna say $400.
$400.
I just had a heart attack. It's $2,000.
$2,000. Redlines are by far the most collectible and, to my knowledge, the most expensive die cast that you could do in full. Getting a complete run is nearly impossible. Not only do you have to pay attention to the make, but you also have to pay attention to the color of the outside, the color of the interior, condition of the wheels. The combinations that come on these cars are absolutely unbelievable. Now, this one here, most people think is a rose or a pink. However, the production of this car, this one would be considered lavender.
Lavender, I would say magenta.
right?
Yeah, lavender's.
Yeah.
This is not a lavender I have in my hair.
Right? You would think that this would be a magenta or a rose or something of the sorts, but it is technically lavender. And that is absolutely insane.
It's
The reason that these are what they are
is because they made up their own colors.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so.
They were the original color makers.
I guess so, but the reason these are what they are is completely due to production numbers. The production numbers, all the combinations between the colors of the interior and the outside. I mean, there's some in here. There's just, there's tons in here. This one's $1,300. There's tons in here that are just absolutely insanely hard to find. And my dad prides himself on that. Even though it's not the most expensive, this one's one of my favorites.
Is that the Jeffrey one?
Jeffrey the Giraffe.
Is that from Toys R Us? Okay, okay.
It sure is.
That's what I was looking at.
$360. Jeffrey the Giraffe. So, to my knowledge, the last time I looked this up, I learn on the go. That's kind of how I do it. And every now and then I'll walk back through when my dad is going through Redlines, and I will do a little bit of research. He'll test my knowledge, and I'll give him what I think a car is worth. And when this one came in, he asked me what I would price it at. I said about $350. But if you get one of these in mint condition, you're looking at probably $700, $750. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Wow.
And this would be my dad's favorite section. And if he were in here, he probably wouldn't even walk you around the entire diecast. He would just show you the red lines, and that would be about it, to be honest with you.
I don't care about anything else.
So from red lines, we have our DC area right here. DC, not incredibly great sellers for us, which does hurt my feelings. I love both Marvel and DC, but I tend to side more DC. Wally West is my favorite comic book character of all time. We got a bunch of Marvel stuff. Kind of makes sense to have them near one another. We have Era G.I. Joe, the stuff from 82 to 94 is what we tend to focus on in here.
There was one that you were looking for.
Yeah. I'm looking for the Collectors Club scoop.
Collectors Club scoop.
He has a camera. Do we have this?
Do not. I'm striking out today. I'm striking out. It is nothing out of the ordinary. It is something so basic. That Storm Shadow right there, that 84 V1 Storm Shadow is the cleanest one with the best symbol that has ever walked through these doors. Super basic. Everybody has to have that figure for a complete collection.
So no hoarders allowed.
No hoarders allowed. Don't swap the parts on this. It's beautifully constructed. It's gorgeous.
You will be arrested.
Yeah, don't do it. That would be a shame.
I'm looking at the cups. I don't know if it's like the Burger King. I can't remember if that was Burger King or McDonald's, or maybe both of them did it. Do you know the answer? It's Dynamite again. Chance.
Yeah.
Do you know what Dynamite is?
Dynamite? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cartoon by Hanna-Barbera in the 60s.
Jeez,
yeah. Dynamite and the Falcon.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that one.
My dad's favorite cartoon.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he was obsessed with that show. Most of the time, whenever we get Dynamite stuff in, he hoards it in the back for like 3 months. And then I pull it, and he goes, "What the heck?" And I tell him that it was not fair for him to hold those back there.
Yeah, I like the lunchboxes. I think they're really cool.
I think they're awesome. I didn't appreciate them as much as I should have when my dad had a store in Florida. He was there for 10 years, and he sold lunchboxes like crazy. And every time I'd go down to visit him, I'd just be like, what's the point? Like, what is the draw to these? I didn't understand it. Even though I had lunchboxes growing up, I just didn't get it. And then when he moved up here and I was the one cleaning them up, pricing them, putting them on the wall, I kind of realized that these things are works of art. And the amount of time and effort that went into doing all of the molding process and the paint application and stuff to those is just absolutely incredible. The metal lunchboxes, that you just can't get any better than that.
Oh, I love that so much.
That is the most expensive one that we have currently. It's only $355.
It looks like Igor.
And it's not in the best of shape, because if that was a mint lunchbox, it'd run about $650.
Can I press the button?
Over here in this room, I would say that this is probably the most popular room in the store. The market in Atlanta for these specific properties tends to be very large, with a lot of cons being held here. There's a pretty big amount of people that come in specifically for this stuff. Power Rangers is gigantic, even though it's American, it spawns from Super Sentai. So this is why we have it over here in this area. Power Rangers for us does really well. MMPR, obviously, it doesn't get any better than Mighty Morphin to a lot of people. When you turn left into the store,
Turtles.
the first case that you hit would be our Turtles case. And we made sure specifically to get this case nice and full for when you guys came down. Because you
Super rare.
hopefully there are some pretty cool pieces in here that you can pluck out, like this 1995 Warrior Rocksteady. Now there are two different versions of that figure that come in chrome. The earlier one, which I believe was 92 release, 92 or 93, that comes in a flat chrome. The Warrior Rocksteady released in 1995 has red chrome on it. You can't see a whole lot of the red chrome on this one. Unfortunately, it's flaked off, but it's so hard to find, and especially hard to find complete, which it is. That figure is marked at $400. And that's probably the most rare piece that we have in there. Another one that you don't see super often complete is the mini Android Krang body from 1994. And we have two of those complete in the case. Hopefully those end up finding a good home. They're only marked at $85, which is considerably lower than what they've sold for about a year ago.
At home, do you have a ton of things, or do you just...
So my dad has no personal collection.
Okay.
He stopped personally collecting when he opened his first store 14 years ago. He decided that the store was going to be his collection. And before we opened this one, I had some collections going. I had 3 3/4 modern Star Wars figures. I had Star Wars Lego. I'm a big Star Wars guy. And when we first opened, I was like, you know what? All that stuff is just sitting in tubs. It's not doing anything. It's not doing anybody any good, just sitting there. And I thought to myself, the store could probably use a lot of really nice product. And everything besides my Star Wars Lego was put in here. I started going through and learning about all these different toy lines, and I started doing the processing and the cleaning. And before we had any employees, it was just me. I was the only person doing it. And I fell into the rabbit hole, and I learned what I really liked.
Star Wars.
Obviously. I still have a very large Star Wars Lego collection, but I also have a complete collection of Kenner Superpowers from 84 through 86. They're DC figures. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I have a complete collection of Visionaries, released in 86 by Hasbro. They're made in the likeness of G.I. Joe, but they're mystical.
Okay.
I like medieval, fantasy type stuff.
You can show me that.
Yeah, we actually have some Visionaries right here.
Oh.
These happen to be my extras. So once I completed the line, I just put all the best pieces together that I could, all the holograms and stuff, and I kept the best looking ones at the house. Not to say that these ones are bad, they're actually considerably nicer than a lot of the other ones that most toy stores see. But those are my extras. I have a complete collection of those at the house. I have a lot of Kenner Silverhawks. I have a lot of Silverhawks at the house. I'm really picky about those, though. The back metal has to be really nice. I have a lot of the LJN Dungeons & Dragons line, which we probably have a few pieces in here. I have some Black Star at home. I have some Otherworld at home. I'm very big into fantasy. I like classical fantasy stuff. So even though I'm a Star Wars guy, which is fantasy and sci-fi based elements, it's like a fantasy story with a sci-fi skin on it. I actually prefer most things that are Lord of the Rings-esque. So
That's cool. That is very cool. I saw Street Sharks.
Street Sharks. Yeah. Street Sharks is pretty cool. You don't see them in box super often. Those are a couple of pieces that we were fortunate enough to get in, I believe, March of this year. And there's tons of people that have taken a look at them, but they draw a hefty price. Finding them in the box is pretty difficult. Most people ripped them out and used them as bathtub toys. Street Sharks, Extreme Dinos, anything alike. That and turtles. A lot of people use turtles as bathtub toys.
Yeah.
There's lots of pretty cool pretty cool lines that came out in the 90s, even though it was the toy boom. And a lot of that stuff doesn't hold a crazy amount of value just because the amount of it produced was insane. But yeah, there's quite a few 90s figures in here. And we kind of dedicate 2 cases to it. One specifically for Turtles, and then one has most of the other stuff in it. Toxic Crusaders, Bucky O'Hare, things of that nature.
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is cool. Toy Biz did a great job with that toy line. Obviously, those figures are very outdated right now, but they are cool. They do hold a special place in toy history. In my opinion, those 3 movies are the best trilogy in nerd fandom, period. I think that they're almost flawless films. If I were to say, I'm a Star Wars guy. I think Lord of the Rings blows every trilogy that Star Wars has out of the water, personally, in terms of filmmaking. And, you know, I try to be unbiased about my opinions. I like to try and be as subjective as possible. It's hard, obviously, you have your specific loves and interests and opinions, but those movies are just flawless. They're perfect. They're awesome the way they are. Wouldn't change a thing about them. Above that, we have some other random pop culture items, raisins, some specific artists, like music artists. There's an Elvis in here. There's a Metallica figure, Judas Priest figure, just some random stuff for people to enjoy. Above that, there's some Evel Knievel. That's another one of my dad's favorites. Obviously, that's from his childhood. It's his era of things, I guess you could say. Over here is one of the more popular cases in the store. These are what we consider our smalls. Things like Mighty Max, Micro Machines, Battle Beasts, Army Ants. Next to the smalls case, we have an entire rotating Berg selector from the 30s filled with muscles.
That's so cool.
This is probably my dad's favorite piece of furniture in the store. This is a fairly expensive case, and he's had this thing for years.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. People like that mechanism. This is a Motu area, another fairly popular case in the store. This is something that we have to fill out pretty consistently, and we end-capped this section, which has our 80s and 90s centric pop culture items in it, with He-Man and TMNT, because we wanted to dedicate a full case to both of those properties. And then everything in between is the other stuff. Sectars, which I also have a complete run of at home. Thundercats.
I like this display. It actually looks really nice.
Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that. A lot of people don't give Sectars the love that they deserve. And that breaks my heart. I like weird stuff. I like the obscure. That's the stuff that I collect. So yeah, seeing the Sectars, I needed to give them love. They don't get enough love. And beside that over here, we have a lot of Mask. We have Captain Power. There's some Centurions here. We actually had a lot more Centurions, but they sold at Retro Toy Con. They were actually pretty popular there, which was cool. A lot of people were coming into our booth and saying, wow, nobody else has these, which is crazy because you tend to see them at other shows. But I guess people really liked the complete examples that we had there, and we found them a home. So that was cool. Over here in our other pop culture areas, we have a pretty quintessential case. It has a lot of the huge 80s action and or car centric lines in it from TV and film. Dukes of Hazzard, Chips, Cannonball Run, Karate Kid, Rambo, Knight Rider, A-Team, Rocky, the stuff that when people say 80s, that's what they're really thinking about.
I just watched Home Alone the other day.
And I figured...
I did get distracted earlier, and it wasn't...
I figured the one thing that you were going to point out was this one thing from the 90s that's in this case.
Because I totally had one, and then my friend had the one that was kind of like the pink color, so it's just...
Oh, I hadn't seen that one.
No?
No, I have not seen the pink one.
I really hope I'm not making it up, because I feel like I see it in my head.
I'm going to have to go research that later. You've added...
I need to research it. I'll get in trouble.
No, hey, don't worry about it. I'm sure I've said something that makes me sound ridiculous.
Beast Wars. That was it? Okay.
That's cold. That's cold. That hits me
I'm
right
not bad
here.
at it.
Yeah, see, yeah, well, but you're a 90s kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. See, we can't be mad at that. So in this case right here, we have a bunch of Real Ghostbusters. Real Ghostbusters is a fairly popular toy line. It doesn't really get the love that it deserved, or it didn't until about 2-3 years ago. People were like, oh my gosh, I forgot about those. And they did really well with a revival. They've come out with a lot of retro figures.
Why is this $200? Oh my gosh.
So let me go grab some keys real quick, and I will show you. There was a collection that walked in here. Gentleman's name was Will. It was about 2.5 years ago. Super nice guy. Came in here with his buddy Derek, and he had all of his childhood stuff. To my knowledge, from what I can remember, his parents ran across his collection down in the basement, and they asked him what he wanted to do with it, and he said, I'll take it to a local toy store. I don't really know what to do with it. So he walked in, and we started going through his stuff, and he had a lot of cans of Real Ghostbusters ectoplasm from the late 80s. And most of the time when you see these, you can expect to find a lot of dry rotted ooze. Mm-hmm. You open it, it smells nasty, it's powdery, it's gross. Every single canister that he had, which he also had the different colors, was completely intact and viscous.
I smell it because you said all the other ones stink, so.
Smells like ooze.
Smells like ooze. It's not crusty.
It is very, very cool. So when they are intact like that, which is not common, they typically sell for about $400. We have them marked at $2 because it would be a shame for these not to find a home. Of course, the other colors that we had, because they were in the same shape, they were marked a little bit more, $225 and $250 for the other variant colors, but those would have been valued around like $500 probably. But we wanted them to find a home, and the likelihood of somebody coming in here and dropping $500 on a can of ooze is not likely. Yeah. Over here we have a wall full of random 80s, 90s horror, sci-fi kind of stuff, and it meshes somewhat well, kind of goes from the sci-fi to the horror to the pop culture stuff, which is how I like it. That's how I have the cases set up in here. So across from this wall, we have personally one of my favorite cases in here, the Jurassic Park case. Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, whatever you want to call it. The JP era stuff. That is probably one of my favorite cases in the store. In terms of value, nothing wild. Most of the dinosaurs they've either reproduced or they've done in a newer mold, newer colors, and the value on the original stuff has dropped unless you have something crazy like the Demon, which is the red and black Carnotaurus.
I really like this display too.
The horror,
the creepy
horror
section.
stuff in here. This is a lot of people's favorite case in the store. Like a lot of horror fans, when they come in here, like this is what they walk to immediately. And I like to have the store set up that way. If you want to come in and you know exactly what you're looking for, I want you to be able to go to that area and find it. The history in this case is really, really neat. These are what we would consider our sci-fi pop culture area. This used to be across from Star Wars, but we felt like it didn't give these properties enough justice. So I moved them over here so that they could have a larger area to occupy. And a lot of people come in, a lot of people in their 60s and 70s come in and have a fascination with Star Trek, which deservedly so. I mean, that's what started everything for them. So it makes complete sense. The Star Trek stuff in this case is a pretty big deal for a lot of people.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I prefer Star Trek over Star Wars.
You know, when I was younger, that would probably be blasphemy. However, the older that I get and the more that I look at things from a different lens, I think that both properties have a special place in toy and pop culture history. They are two totally different genres. Absolutely different genres of things. Like, the comparison doesn't make any sense to me. Mm-hmm. One is classical sci-fi It's all about predicting the future and like what could society be like if technology expanded to this rate. The other one is literally just a fantasy epic in space. It's two totally different genres. So you can like Star Trek, she's wrong, and that's fine. I don't mind, you know. Right in front of you and right behind you is our military section of the store. It is not incredibly popular for us, but it is very important, especially to my dad, to have some kind of presence of military appreciation in here. He served in the Marine Corps from 1992 to 1995, and my uncle was an officer in the Marine Corps. My cousin is an officer in the Marine Corps. I have a lot of family members that have been in the military, and we appreciate their service, and my dad would not have a store if it didn't have a case like this in it. He does have a lot more of this stuff down at the Cobb Antique Mall. That's where it sells the best, which is something that you would expect. But to have it not have a place in here at all for him would be a shame. And so that's why we have it.
Wait, do you guys have 2 stores?
So we don't have a second store, but we do have a booth down at Cobb Antique Mall. It's about a mile down the street. A lot of the stuff that doesn't sell super well in here, there's a lot of larger scale die-cast items, the metal cars.
I got it now.
And a lot of military items, 12-inch G.I. Joe, Corgi and Dinky die-cast vehicles that are military-centric. Don't sell incredibly well in here. So my dad does have an 800 square foot booth right at the beginning of Cobb Antique Mall. You walk in, it's directly on the right. You cannot miss it. He's got Second Chance toys plastered on the booth, I'm assuming.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's different. It's definitely a different feel than this is. But, you know, I try and appreciate every bit of toy history. It's important. I feel like it's part of our job as a toy store to spread the love and spread the knowledge and get people invested in this as a future. So,
Invested a lots of monies.
it's not about the money.
No. Everybody else
know
is
what you meant.
investing a lots of money.
I know what you meant. But I had to say it because, you know, I don't want people thinking that I'm just doing this for funds. You know, it helps. Anything helps. You know, we're not a charity case, but if you want to come in and find some cool stuff for your kids or live your nostalgia, that's great.
This is a 2021 Mattel Diecast Vehicles team. It's a Lightning McQueen, but it's custom. It has the Matchbox logos, the Hot Wheel logos. It's also a Redline, hence the tires there.
And how much does that cost?
At the moment, it's kind of unpriced. Our boss says $2K on it, but in terms of value, we can't determine anything for it. So, and it is sealed. It has seals on it.
Got a storage shell Mikey here. Not your average. It's black belt. Unfortunately, it is missing his back. We did have a fairly complete, probably about 95%. He was missing one accessory, storage shell, black belt, Donnie in here at one point. And that was a considerable amount. But that's a RAF back right there, black belt. And here's a bunch of black belt, storage shell accessories.
It's the purple lady. The purple hair. I already forgot the name. Jim and the Holograms, maybe?
So a lot of people have no clue that these accessories sell for most of the time anywhere between $200 and $300 a piece if you throw them online. The likelihood of us getting these in here, incredibly slim. So that's probably what we're gonna do. I hate having to do that. I cannot stand putting accessories online. I don't like selling them separate. I like to hoard them like most toy stores do, but the likelihood of us having that is pretty slim. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to find them a new home.
I love that so much. My son has a purple one. I love that. I think I'm gonna have to get that today. That's so cool.
You want me to set it up front?
Yeah, but like I want to hold it first.
Please do.
I am taking this baby home today. And it's not $400, so I'm really happy about that.
Not $400.
Not $400.
No. Pretty sweet piece.
Yeah.
All you need to know is that he's cool.
He is cool. We just finished touring Second Chance Toys in Marietta, Georgia. Got some cool things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment.